normally we'd get a bio. I got a bio.
Okay.
I don't think I shared it with Jared. So I would
have no idea.
I would have some semblance of introduction, but I'm gonna let you do it. So
Okay.
why don't you just tell us who you are?
Who are you though?
Everybody knows who I am at this point.
No,
you're right. Who am I kidding? All 4 of our listeners maybe know who we are.
No, we got up to 13. Remember?
Oh,
we talked about
because
this.
your mom and my mom.
Yes.
Yeah,
There you go.
right.
Yeah.
Maybe your mom
And
now.
then-
Maybe. Yeah.
So wow, we just no. I'm not going to go there.
Okay.
My
Okay. What just happened? Are we recording yet?
we are. Yes. Yes. So yeah, I'm RJ. As we discussed earlier, I'm apparently the host until we bait and switch you into being the host. I work for Howe Rescue Systems.
I'm Jared Buckley. I work for me, 1011 Response, Coach Fire Chiefs. So there you go.
My name is Matt Sherrill. I work here, City of Dayton, captain. I've been with the department for, I'm in my 18th year with the city. I'm in my 20th year in the fire service. Started at the bottom. The fire service coming in was treacherous, to say the least. The job market was not there. There wasn't a lot of full-time jobs. I started as a volunteer, worked my way with experience and time to part-time, and then actually the first full-time department I tested for was the City of Dayton, and
nice.
I got hired there when I was 20. I just finished medic school and got hired as a full-time firefighter with one of the craziest departments in the nation, and I was pushing drugs before I could drink alcohol.
There you go.
So I spent 8.5 years on a ladder company, and promoted to lieutenant, and spent some time out at the training academy. Ultimately got assigned to a downtown company where we have an engine and a rescue, and I've been up to my neck in tech rescue since then. Got promoted to captain in 2020, which for a lot of people that was a bad year. It was actually a good year for me. Got promoted to captain, and then a year later I was assigned to another truck company that houses our other rescue and one of our boats. And that was in 2021. And shortly after that, I actually took charge of the entire tech rescue program for the City of Dayton. I'm also on our state USAR team, the Ohio Region 3-Strike team, and the FEMA, the Ohio Task Force 1 team. I'm a rescue squad officer now. That's a recent development with them. So more importantly, I have a very frustrated wife and 3 crazy kids. I got 2 daughters. I was ready to stop after that, and she convinced me into a third, and now I got a son. So I've got a 9, 7, and 3-year-old at home. So that is where yes,
Yeah.
that is where the majority of my efforts go.
Wow.
How many kids do you have, Jared? Go ahead, tell them.
I last checked was 5. So
fucking
it
neat.
might be 6 when I get back home. I don't know.
Or maybe 4.
Or maybe
Maybe.
4.
But
That is a possibility.
that's why you have that's why I have 3, right? Because you lose one, you
Yes,
still got 2.
that is the point. Yes.
Yeah. Obviously.
Well, the reality is, and you understand this, you do too, going from 2 to 3 is the biggest jump because you're going man to zone.
Yes.
And
yes.
after 3, that's why we added 2 more. It's like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
I mean,
The oldest one's getting old enough to help.
yep.
Right.
Valuable.
Yes.
Except for ours. That one doesn't work very well. But that's a whole different story.
Yeah, I had the girl first, and then I had 2 boys, so we're like opposite of you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we mixed ours up. Girl, boy, girl, boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good back and forth.
Yeah.
Keeps us on our toes.
Yeah. I'm just happy to be away from diapers.
Oh,
Yep.
That's-
man.
We
I
got
can
we
get
got out of
that was the
that
day.
earlier this year.
Yeah.
That was a game changer.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's big.
Yeah, our youngest is 6, so
Okay.
it's been, and my wife was, as soon as he was 18 months old, she's like, diaper's gone, you're naked, go.
Yep.
We're not doing this anymore.
God bless her.
I'm like, "All right, why is he running around naked again? We're at church. What is he doing?
Yeah. Our my son does
gotta
that
lean
on
in.
his own.
Yeah.
You look out back and his underwear are gone and he's peeing on something.
See?
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Boys.
Hey, just use the bathroom, man. Come on. they literally, ours will go outside.
Yeah.
Sitting inside,
Yeah.
go outside. And I'm like, there's a bathroom.
Yeah.
It's freeing.
Yeah.
Well, it's also hot out there.
We said nothing about his career accomplishments, but getting out of diapers, we're like,
Yeah.
That's-
great job.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big deal.
Forget everything
It's a big deal. Forget it all. Forget the rest.
Oh.
All right. So let's take it back a little bit.
Okay.
Did you always know you wanted to be a firefighter?
Yes, unequivocally. Yeah. So my dad is a police officer, or was. He's retired now. And I always had the opportunity to see the fire trucks because he worked down south of town, and their police station was attached by a parking lot to a fire station. So he always knew. It was a small department. The police officers knew the firemen, and he would take me over there and let me run around on the trucks. And I was like, this is so cool.
Nice.
And then, like, I have probably from the time I was like 4 or 5, I can remember my mom would make me water the flowers in the bushes, and I would get out there with a hose and pretend I was a fireman putting out fire.
Nice.
And she got the benefit of me, screwing on the Miracle Grow container and feeding her plants some sort of chemicals that are probably affecting me now. That's probably why my hair's falling out. So yes, I did. I always knew
Nice.
I wanted to be a fireman.
Which isn't always the case.
No.
So you said you started. When did you start?
I got into.
You were a volunteer.
I was, yeah. So small department in the county adjacent Sugar Creek Township. I started in actually 2 days after my 19th birthday was my
Gotcha.
start date down there. And then I got a volunteer job in a small city called Riverside.
Yep.
That turned into a part-time gig for me. Sugar Creek did not. I ended up leaving there for a part-time job in Washington Township, but it was very short-lived. Like I said, I was December 18th of 2006. I started with the city of Dayton, so there was a year and a half window there where I was trying to work my way up the ladder and claw my way into a full-time job because it was it was brutal. You'd get 100 people that would test for 6 positions, and that's probably underselling it.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
very, very, very competitive job market back then, which is flipped on its head now. They're like,
I was going to say we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
they're like cloning us now to get enough
Yep,
firemen.
Absolutely. Yeah, some of the other interviews we've had, that's been a common thread where you used to have 100, 200, depending on the department, 300 applicants for like one position.
Yes.
And now you almost can't even fill them. Like they're taking warm bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Which makes, your job even more difficult. Not just what you guys do, but from an administrative standpoint and the staffing, it's a trickle down effect.
Yes. Yeah, it's it's a difficult environment to navigate, and it's a top down. The administration has to weed out the people that aren't fit for the job, and that's usually are they criminals or not? Can they keep a driver's license? And then we get the burden of, or I shouldn't say the burden, the opportunity to mold them.
smart.
That's good.
And to turn them into good workers, and I stole this years ago from the interwebs, but there's that 10-80-10 rule. 10% of the people will always exceed your expectations. 10% never will meet them or barely meet them, and 80% are going to do whatever they're going to conform to the environment that they exist in, and that's where the leadership comes in. That's where leadership is so important. If you have a good leader, 90% of your workforce is going to be productive and good because just because. And I've seen it, maybe the percentages are slightly skewed, but I've seen it real hand. I've seen guys that people have given up on, like nope, he's terrible, and then they get shipped out and they land in the right spot with the right leader, and all of a sudden now they're an officer. Now they're a lieutenant. Now they're a captain, and they're doing good things. They're not just falling into those opportunities. They're actually doing good things for the fire department. So it's leadership is such a huge thing with that. So yes, it's an issue that we can't get people, but we with the right organizational leadership, we can make them into whatever we want. Most of them.
Where do you see that leadership? I mean, obviously you saw that over time and started seeing how leadership impacts these things. I'm guessing you have a tilt towards leadership and organizational leadership. How did that grow through your career?
So I learned we learn best from our mistakes. We learn even better from other people's mistakes. So I had a really good assignment coming out of the fire academy. I was at the slowest truck company in the city, but it was doing 500 or 600 working fires. Or the city was doing 500 or 600, and this one truck out of 5 was going to about half of them.
Oh.
So 300 working fires a year is a pretty darn good deal when you're when you're young and wanting to work.
Yep.
So great assignment, good captain, good senior guys around me. And I watched, that was day one. I watched how they treated me. I watched, they made fun of me a lot and we laughed, but I always felt invested in them because of the way that they treated me. So that one always stuck with me. Like, invest in your people and they'll invest in you back, right? And then, my captain was always mild-mannered, but he was solid, good tactics, and again, treated me with respect. And when I did something wrong, he held me accountable for it, which is another big thing, is accountability. Like, if we don't hold people accountable, then it's useless. But then he went to the academy. He left us. Like, he went to a long-term assignment out at our training academy. And so then started this whirlwind, this vacuum of leadership that we had. I had I can't even recall how long the time frame was, but I had 3 assigned captains, and one of them was a good dude and was ferociously on our side no matter what. But he ended up having knee surgery, and he left, and then he went to a firehouse, an even slower fire duty ladder company with no steps. That's a big thing for our older guys.
Gotcha.
They like to go play their knees and their hips and everything.
That's interesting.
So they had another captain who was on his way out. So just he didn't care a lot. He definitely wasn't investing in us. So it was all right, but you'd turn around on a run and he'd be on his phone walking around, and then I would be like, I distinctly remember a commercial fire alarm where we were actively investigating, and dude was just walking around on his phone, not calling the chief to get advice or anything, just talking business with someone else.
Wow.
So obviously a lot of negative, a lot of negative there that I learned from, that I watched. And then I had another captain that would show up. He would see us at roll call, and we wouldn't see him the rest of the shift. He didn't eat meals with us. He would go on runs because he had to.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't see him the rest of the day. So that's really where the power vacuum came in. And I saw a guy that's a chief now, was one of my senior guys. He actually stepped up with the second senior guy, and they were doing the company staffing and hey, this is what we need to get done today and stuff. Now there was a lot of shenanigans because it was the inmates running the prison.
Yeah.
But I watched these guys step up, and they had a sense of duty, and that way that's the discipline. That's a big thing for me, is and not the you're in trouble discipline, but the discipline where you do what you're supposed to do, or having that good character, doing things right when nobody's looking. That's always been instilled in me. So from a very young age in the fire department, I saw that leadership and saw that negative stuff happening, and I finally got to the point with that, I almost left the company. It was it was chaos, and I wasn't happy, in then right probably at my low there was a change of leadership. A new officer came in. He's one of our chiefs now. He's still one of my best friends on the fire department to this day.
Nice.
He basically kicked me in the butt and said, this is the direction we're going. This is what we're going to do. And he encouraged and nourished my curiosity and my willingness to learn and my desire to train and do stuff. And we as a company grew into, a very progressive, very confident truck company, and actually set the pace for a lot of other companies in the city to pick up some slack and start doing things more proactively. And
Nice.
so I learned a lot from him in a good respect. And then I got to be a leader. I got to be the senior guy in the firehouse. I got the unofficial promotion to permanent driver, which was huge for me. Like, it was such an honor, because for us, our truck drivers are that initial truck showing up. That truck driver's autonomous. Nobody's there to help, and you're basically that first in RIT team. So you got an engine crew going in the door, the truck's barreling up behind them, and ain't nobody there to help them guys but you until third engine gets there to establish RIT formally. So my job was throwing ladders, doing ventilation, forcing window bars, all the basic truck outside stuff that we do, but it was all on one guy's shoulders, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I got to train a couple rookies as the senior guy, and that same captain that did all that good stuff for me, like he helped me become an instructor. And so me and one of my other best friends that was a fireman with me, we would just go to town on these rookies and teach them and teach them and teach them. And that taught me lessons, like, okay, you did this wrong. Or then I got to be a formal leader, got promoted out of that firehouse, became a lieutenant, and still teaching. I've been an instructor for 11 years now. And went out to the academy, got to help lead a class, and then got my assignment with the rescue and engine downtown, and rode that for 3 years before I got promoted to captain. And so I've learned a ton along the way, but I look back a lot on that past, and then I look very introspectively too. Like, if you two were part of my crew and something went wrong, the first place I look is at myself. What did I do wrong? Or where did I not set you guys up for success? What did I do to cause this?
Yep.
And then there's situations where it's like, I didn't do anything. You're just being a moron, like human. And to this day, like, I still keep a non-punitive but a very open and real discussion with my guys after a critical incident. And it could be a technical rescue incident, it could be a structure fire, anything that we do, or we get a lot of like bad trauma shootings and stuff, and we'll talk about it afterwards. And the first, they know that I don't mean it in a negative way, but the first thing I always ask is like, what could you have done better? If you could do that over again, what would you do? And that creates so much growth, because one, they start to become introspective. They look at themselves and like, all right, oh yeah, I could have done this better. But it also lets us grow as a company, because we can discuss tactics. We can discuss why we did what we did, because a lot, especially for me, and I'll lead the conversation. I'll say, I did this wrong. I should have done this instead of this. And this is why, and this is how it affected the operation. And they do it too. But, we all grow together in that. And then we talk about, all the high five moments and how awesome we are, and
nice.
All the cool stuff that we got to do. But it's such a good segue for conversation with the guys, and such a growth thing for them. But it also helps me to learn, like, okay, what were they thinking? How? Yep. And then ultimately it helps me as a leader, because in our department, a large majority of the training comes from the company level, from the company officer. The training center gives out the bigger, broader, department-wide stuff. But like for me, it's like I'm responsible to train all these guys.
Yep.
And I like to think they're pretty high functioning.
Most of them.
Yeah. So I use that as a good leadership tool. But I mean, there's so, we could talk about this for 8 hours, all the different little bits and pieces from
Oh yeah.
day one. I think it was March 12th, 2007 was my first day in the firehouse. And then
Nice.
all the way up till now.
You do those reviews, the after action reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a format besides, hey, what could you have done better? Is there, or is it kind of start off that question and kind of lead from there?
We'll usually just talk through. Okay. And I start this. I might be the weirdo in the fire department for doing this because I've never seen anyone else do it. But if I'm first in truck as a captain, I get assigned as inside division, which is essentially operations.
Okay.
That operations would be a better term to use. It would be universally understood. But I do all the communicating with the district chief outside, and I give updates on conditions, search progress, ventilation needs, utility. Like, I'm his inside eyes.
Okay.
So when I'm in that position, I help make a lot of decisions that are being made on the fire ground or even on the tech rescue side. I'm the same thing. I'm operations on the tech rescue side. So I will pull the first and second due engine and my crew together, all of us at the end before we pick up, because that's usually all that's left at the end. Mm-hmm. The second, we get 4 and 2. We get 4 engines, 2 trucks on every fire.
Oh wow.
So those later arriving engines and second truck usually play a minor role for our bread and butter fires because they usually are pretty easy to take care of.
Right.
But I'll pull those first three companies, and we'll talk at the end. And I'll just go around the circle, and I'll start with the officers. Like, hey, how'd everything go for you? And I'm not picking on them. Not looking for them to be like, oh, well, Bobby did this wrong. Just how'd it go? Yeah. And usually it's like, oh, it went well, stretched the line, did this, that. Sometimes we hear about something weird that happened, which is cool because if none of us saw it, which none of us did, now we learned something. Yeah. We've had, some guys make some moves kind of out of character of what our tactics are. And it's like, that was great. That was a tremendous decision. Dude. So we start like that, right? So we do this hot wash. Everybody gets a chance to say, like, this went well, whatever. And I talk to the operators.
And you're still on scene.
Yeah, we're getting ready to leave.
Which in my head, I was thinking you're back at the station.
No, we're sitting out front of this house. Yeah. Okay. So it's fresh in everybody's mind.
Yeah.
But it's also good, that you got to look at the negative side of it too. If something went really wrong, it's a really fresh setting, away from the chief, that we can be like, hey, what happened, guys? Yep. And then everybody's free to give their input and say, this is where I messed up. Mm-hmm. And then and one person doing that, and then someone else is like, yeah, I messed this up. Yep. I could have done this better. Because we're all pretty honest people. We at least with my guys, and I try to foster this with the companies around us, we're a team. Like, we're there to help each other. And it goes back to the discipline and everybody doing their job so that the overall picture is completed at the end. But, so that's where it starts. And then usually on the ride back, we have headsets. We'll kick on the AC, and we'll just, we'll cruise home. And I'll be like, all right, well, this is what I wish I would have done different. Because I always walk away from a fire, something like, man, I wish I would have done this different. Because I want it to go perfect every time. And I know it's not going to. But so I, and then I'm usually the guy behind me, that we call that the B seat, and put whatever term after the B, whatever word you want there. That my guys have their own for it. That's it.
Best seat.
But I'm usually like, I holler at a guy back me, how'd it go for you? What do you think you could do better next time, or what would you do different? And then he'll give, and then in every single time it turns into a talk about tactics. Mm-hmm. And it becomes like a little training session for everybody. And then, then I'll go to the C seat, and then this is what I saw, this is what I did, this is what I could have done better. And then get to the driver, because again, the driver's that autonomous position. And the newer guys, it's funny listening to them just because oh my God, I was so worried. And But it's a great time for praise too. Like, dude,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
did it. You did a fantastic job. And
Totally.
and that's with any of them too. Like, we started the shift 23 minutes into our shift yesterday. We ended up VESing off the porch roof for reported trap. And we did a couple things kind of outside the realm of how we train, and the guys killed it.
Nice.
I don't like to use the term aggressive. I say confident. So
Yeah.
confident entry. You know, up the
Nice,
ladder,
yeah.
through the window, in. Neither room had doors on them, which, if you don't know much about VESs, or
What?
someone's going to hate me for saying VEIS. The first thing you do is you come in this window. There's fire burning below you, and you got to shut the door.
Yeah.
There were no doors to shut, so one guy had to go find a door and put it over the opening so he could complete a search, because we
Oh, they had been taken off.
yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah. So but all this is by themselves in a superheated room.
Yeah.
They can't see anything, and these guys are thinking for themselves and making these decisions in the and I'm outside the window monitoring. I'm watching with the tick, but I got two guys to watch. So I'm I'm like doing the spider monkey on the porch roof, back and forth, checking in with them. And so no, that part of it from a leadership standpoint is so rewarding to me,
For sure.
because we train on this stuff. We train on all sorts of stuff, but that's something we hit pretty hard, is the search and truck enforcement, just truck stuff.
Yep.
And it's probably 50-50 truck and tech rescue in my house. And to watch those guys do the stuff that we've trained on hot days when nobody wants, nobody's like really enjoying it. We're all having some laughs, but it's hot, it's hard. These guys embrace it, and it's so rewarding on the back end to see that success. Which there was no person in the house. They found a dog, but it was rough.
Well, okay, so I'm thinking. So I'm thinking.
I was gonna let it go.
So I'm thinking, you go after the tactics side. I'm guessing you've had some calls that have been not just a bad call, like it wasn't run well, but you had a bad call, and you get back into the rig. Do you still ask the question, what could we have done better? Or do you go to a different question knowing
It went a little sideways.
it went a little sideways?
It does happen, because
Shit happens.
yeah. And I can think of one fire that we have a really good mutual aid partner to our north, or that we have a lot of good mutual aid partners, but specifically just to the north of the city, we have a really good relationship with our guys. Okay. My guys and their guys all together. Their officers, our chief, like it's almost like we're one fire department. And they had a apartment fire go to a third alarm, and like people trapped, and this thing's just your typical wood frame apartment, 3 stories. It caught on the first floor, ran all 3 floors, and now it's going sideways as fast as it can. We ended up there pretty early on, and we had some help from some other guys, but a big credit to saving the, I don't even know how much of the building from one side was my guys getting in there, dropping a ton of ceiling, flowing a ton of water, and just maintaining discipline. Okay. While I'm running around with my, checking this, looking at that.
Yep.
And we didn't. They wouldn't put a hole in the roof they just had no people to do it, I'm assuming. So we couldn't see anything. Mm-hmm. But I could look on my tick, and the firewall was block, but it didn't have the corners for the slope of the roof, so there was just holes in the firewall. The fire's just blowing through there. But we stopped it. We stopped it at that apartment. I'm super proud of the guys. And then we had this just direct, and they just doing overhaul. Like they couldn't get the saw to cut because the chain was on backwards. It was our saw.
Oh no!
And I was so annoyed, and So yeah, that drives the conversation in a different direction, you know. And in the moment, I was pissed because that's such a rookie thing to do.
Sure.
We kept working, whatever. They pulled it off. I'm like, let me see it, and I'm like, guys, come on, the chain's on backwards, and I didn't say it so nicely.
Yeah.
And in their defense, like we literally had just picked up a reserve truck. And it was the chaos of switching apparatus, which we do a lot. That's one of our fun games we do is we switch apparatus a lot.
Nice.
So fun.
So it was a hurried. We got sent on a structure fire while we were switching trucks.
Jeez.
It ended up being nothing, but everything was like, yeah, we're good. And they're throwing shit in the compartment. It was a first due fire. It would have been had it been. It was a guy burning leaves, annoyingly. So you know things got missed. So, you know, for me as the leader, like I get pissed in the moment and it's like, all right, what did you do? How did I mess it up? Okay. Well, did I give them enough time to check? Well, no, because we had a fire. So and I think anybody would have probably made that same decision. Like we'll deal with this in a little bit. Let's go to the fire.
Yeah.
And you know, then the rest is just like a training thing. Like, you guys got to be checking the chain direction on this. Like, I thought we knew that, but we missed it. So, but I had a big failure in the way I reacted. I got really pissed, and it was such a silly moment to get mad. But I was more mad that near perfect fire had slipped away from us because of something so silly.
Interesting.
And that was on a personal level, and it was not, you know, it was an honest mistake. It was an honest oversight, I would say, because they didn't put the chain on. They found this all the way it was. So, and we did it in front of like 3 or 4 different cities, guys that were sitting there. So you know, that just hurts a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, you know, I probably gave it 15, 20 minutes, and I'm like, darn it, I messed up, and we went in the first floor of this apartment building and closed the door. The entire roof is burned off of this place. There's still flowing water next to us. And I sincerely apologize to those guys for the way I had reacted and for getting mad at them over it. And I'm like, listen, you guys killed it today. Like this is. You crushed this fire. You stopped half this building from burning down. I shouldn't have been mad at you over, you know, this little oversight, even though it's not okay.
Correct.
And so then I was able to readdress the thing there. But if there's something glaringly wrong, I'll approach it in a way like, guys, we messed this up. This is what happened. This is what I saw. Give me your side of it.
Okay.
Now, in that moment, I didn't do it, and it wasn't fair, and I apologize. Right. But in a general sense, like it's still an after the fact, and I very much am like, let me hear your side of this before I form a final opinion on this. And my opinion might not change based off of what you tell me.
Right.
But yeah, I like to get their side of it because sometimes I miss stuff. Especially in the moment, I'm responsible for 3 or 4 crews that are reporting to me inside, and I may miss what they've done, or I may think that they didn't do something and they did, and I just didn't hear about it. Or they said something because sometimes, there's too much information coming in, and my brain's my processor's like it's a 1986 model, so it doesn't quite get all the information and. Not that I'm ignoring my guys, but they'll tell me something and I'll information dump it just as quick as it came in because now there's radio traffic coming in or something like that.
Absolutely.
And I'll forget.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, no, I did that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine. There's no issue. So I try to maintain that. I don't want to say safe space, but that environment where they can tell me like, hey, I messed up and I didn't do this, and I'm not going to berate them and tell them that they're idiots and we handle it all behind closed doors. If there's an issue that we caused, we handle it behind closed doors and we talk about it. And then on my end, the back end of that, there will be training. And then there's always that little thing in the back of my head, like we need to keep practicing this over time, or when we get a new person, we need to make that part of their training. Now, there's fires that don't go well because of other things outside of our control that are not influenced by us. And we talk about that too. Like, we just talk about the overall impact and like what did this do that affected us? And sometimes it's other companies doing stuff because we make mistakes, they make mistakes. So we talk about that. Like, what could they have done different? And then we start getting down that Monday morning quarterback. But being there, being in the moment, being at the fire or at the incident, we can say this is how things should have gone. And this is not how they done. And then we discuss it, and there's learning and growth there as well. Then they can remember that moving forward, and we can apply that to future stuff that comes down the road for us.
It's incredible. Are you aware of like how I don't know the right word to use here, but elevated your leadership style is?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say
how you're
something.
kind of a unicorn?
Don't call me a unicorn.
Sorry.
But it's rainbows following him.
Yeah. I wondered what that was. That makes sense. So it's super well, and you sort of mentioned it too, because you said you're the only guy that does that, like we'll call it a round table thing before you leave scene.
So let me clarify. I've never seen it done.
Okay.
Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I've never seen Santa Claus.
Fair. Doesn't mean it's not real.
Correct.
Yep. I agree.
So there could be other. We have a lot of good officers. They may be
For
doing
sure.
this as well. But since I'm at their level, they don't do it to me or do it with me. So yes, I don't see it done. I try to incorporate it on the runs that I'm there.
So to that question, because I was in the same exact boat, my other strategy question on leadership is you said that you'll have these conversations, especially a corrective conversation behind closed doors.
Yes.
Where'd that come from?
Just growing up, when I messed stuff up, it was those senior guys coming to me like, "Hey, dude, you messed this up," and I'm like, "Oh crap, you're right." Like I'm sorry, dude. Like, but everybody's different, right? So everybody's got different personalities. There's you tell someone they did, like, I can go to a group and say we did this wrong, and that's received well. Everybody can understand their ownership in it. When I walk up to one guy and put my finger in his chest and say you messed this up for everybody, what do? Then the shop's closed, right?
Yep.
And there's nothing good that comes out of that. They may learn, like, oh yeah, or they may have known that they messed it up, but there's a lot of negativity that comes out of that. A lot of negative. There's just a lot of negative connotations around that. Then they have a more of a don't mess up in a negative way than a hey, we messed up. Make this right next time. Yeah.
Trust limitation that happens.
Yeah, so I like to bring in as a company, I'm happy to talk individually, like, hey, I think you could have done this better, because again, we try to maintain that very open. If I mess up, tell me, and my guys will tell me, so hey, you did such and such, or you said, oh crap, you're right, and I own it just as much as I want them to own it. But yeah, I've always been treated with the respect of, most of the time, I've been yelled at in the street before, but most of the time being told behind closed doors, like, this was not the right way to do that. Whatever the situation was. And then if I don't understand why, I'm taught why, and then it doesn't happen again. That's the biggest thing, is like just not letting it happen again. That's for me. If I get a guy that does the same thing wrong 5 times, then I'm good. Yeah. And you either don't care or you just need to be hit in the head again. I don't know, but if I can pull my guys aside and be like, hey, dude, I need you to do this different next time. No big, and then we move on. Yeah, that's where it stems from. Was my senior guys as a fireman, my officer as a fireman, and then my chiefs now they'll do exactly what I said I like to do to the guys and ask their perspective. Like if I do something weird, my chief will be like, "Hey, why did you do that?" Not, "You're an idiot. You don't do that ever again."
Yep.
They say, "Why did you do that?" And then it gives me a chance. I'm like, "Oh crap, I messed this up." Okay, quick, make up a lie. No. But it gives me a chance to offer, the context of the situation that I had, and then what I saw, and because my actions are based off of what has happened or what I've interpreted, and where I'm trying to get to, what I'm trying to make happen. So that's gonna be what causes my actions in the moment, and usually it turns into a productive conversation, and maybe they didn't understand something, or maybe it was just like, "I didn't want you to do that. I said this," and I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I didn't hear that." And it's productive on both ends. There's a good understanding from my chief and from me, and then we walk away with, and there's no hurt feelings or anything like that, and there's a clear understanding of the objectives that are to be met. And so it doesn't happen often, but every now and then my chief will call me like, what were you thinking on this?
Yeah.
I got so many questions.
Good. Fire away.
Yeah. No, it's good. And I'm gonna point this out because you said you're looking for the perfect fire, right? Or to have it go perfectly.
Oh,
right?
all the time.
Yes.
Right? So there's this thing where like you should never chase perfection, right? You hear that said across all kinds of different shit. But here's what I'm gonna say. Here's what sticks out. You and your team, really, you're chasing perfection realistically, which I find fucking fascinating.
I didn't know we were allowed to cuss.
Yeah, there's no rules. I told you there's no rules.
Oh, no rules.
So it's like you've built this culture in your team, and it seems like it goes above you and below you, and everybody's trusting and willing to open up because you've done it the right way and you're leading the right way, and that's, I'll be honest with you, it's rare. At a leadership level, it's rare.
So I'm having trouble taking the compliment. I'll just say that. I appreciate it.
You're
but
welcome.
I want, there's a lot at stake, right?
For sure.
And the higher I get in the organization, the more scared I am of somebody getting hurt or dying. But I realize that's what our job entails. So I have these guys around me and these guys under me that I care about. Like those are my dudes, and we do some really sketchy stuff together.
For sure.
And we have a lot of fun doing it most of the time. And then we see some really bad stuff. So there's a very special bond there. It's just so important to me that they're safe, right? That they know the skills that they need to know so that they can execute that in a dangerous environment and come out unscathed. Like that's the importance of training, right?
Yeah.
Understanding your limitations and your boundaries and being able to do stuff in a manner that is quick and efficient and produces the end result.
Sure.
And then there's the citizens aspect of that, like we're there to save people's lives and save people's property. So the better we are when we show up, the better everything goes for everybody.
Yep.
There's pride in it. Like we pride ourselves on our job. We pride ourselves on our company. We pride ourselves on each other. I hear all the time, you have such a good crew from higher ranking officers, and that is a testament to those guys and the work that they put in. I steer the ship and they row it. I can only guide them. They have to put in the work. They put in the sweat equity. They are the ones that do all this stuff that make all these great things happen. So that's what drives me is my desire for them to do a good job, because that's how I was as a fireman. Like, I want to do the best job I can when I get there. I want to make a grab. I want to do the cool rescue stuff. I want to do all this stuff. And that's how these guys are, and you foster that. And especially like when they're curious about stuff, you foster that and you let them do it and you try it and, hey, this don't work. but also letting them think critically. And there's times guys around me would be like, nope, Sherrill wants it done this way. But there are times where I'll let them explore, or
Sure.
hey, fix this problem. Why did you do that? And they always get the deer in the headlights, and they're like, crap. But what has happened, and I think back to like the tech rescue stuff, because there's very, very blurry
for sure.
lines of definition on what I'm supposed to do in this scenario, because it may incorporate three different aspects of tech rescue.
Yep.
But what I tell them is, if you can justify why you did something, I'm cool with it. Because I could take 5 rope guys, for instance, and be like, build this system, and you're going to get a different, and everyone's going to hate everyone else's system for some reason, but it all achieves the same thing.
Yep.
And so I try to foster that as well, because if they can critically think in times like yesterday, where there's a door missing where there's supposed to be a door, because there's a door every time in training,
right?
All of a sudden they solve the puzzle without me,
right?
And something that I want for them, and this in a grander scheme for the fire department, is those guys to be better as firemen than I was as a fireman. I think they're there. I think that they're better than I was.
Yep.
If we were to put timelines together, they're better than I was at 6 years, 7 years, 8 years on the fire department. And same with the rescue stuff. Like they're eons beyond where I was at that point in my career. And if I do that for them when they move on and when they promote, I have my senior guys getting ready to get promoted about a month and a half.
Nice.
Which is a huge loss for us.
For sure.
But it's great for him. And then he can go on and take that mentality. And then I've got another guy that's studying for the upcoming test that will likely do well. And he will take that with him. And if we don't try to make the guys under us and around us as good as we can, then we've wasted our time, right? It's just going to be a perpetual learning curve where you start at 0, you get to 10, and then you're out of the organization, and the organization loses that experience. Mm-hmm. If I can come in at 10 and I can get you to 20 halfway through your career, then you're going to grow beyond that, right? You're going to get, and that's how we get better. And you can see it in society with inventions and everything over time. And I'm not a historical guy, but that's kind of the mindset I have, and it's just pouring into these guys and just delivering everything that I can to them that they'll retain, and just to get them to that higher level. So when you're up here and the operation is somewhere middle of the road, it's easy for them. It's less stressful on them. They don't have to think as hard. They operate perfectly. It's just a smoother operation. If you're constantly operating at the higher threshold of your capabilities, you're stressed.
Yep.
You're everything's elevated. It starts to get emotional. Yep. But if you've done it a bunch of times and you've had a really OCD captain up your butt telling you, no, you can't do that. That anchor strap's gonna be overloaded in that configuration, and it's no big deal for you.
So, okay, I'm gonna run a little bit here.
Jared's wheels are spinning real hard right now.
Oh my God.
Burning out.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
One of the things, I'm going to admit to something, and I think you're fully going to agree to this. What you're talking about, not being able to take the compliment, you see that what you're telling us is your own perception.
Correct.
And even the people that listen to this, not that firefighters are critical of anything.
Oh, yeah.
So even the skepticism, they look at it and say, okay, well, he's telling his side of the story.
Sure.
All that being said, what you're explaining to us, even through your own perception, you don't fully even realize, like, the full totality of the leadership you're doing. Like that's what he was. That's
I
what
got you.
RJ was just saying.
I'm telling you. That's what I'm saying.
And so the perfection thing, I have a deputy chief told me, that was 3 years ago. And he said, look, chief officers have to be perfect in everything. I was like,
Okay.
I'm going to push you back on that.
Yeah,
And he
right.
goes, go ahead, but the statement still stands. And it took me a while to actually even kind of process that information. Now that quote sits on my whiteboard in my office. And the reason is the aspiration must be perfection.
Correct. Yes.
But the grace that exists must still be there
Correct.
for growth.
100%. Yes.
And I mean, it took me a while. And I'm like, man, that's good, dude.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm hearing from you. The perfection is in the aspiration. Knowing full well,
Yes.
we're not going to achieve that every time.
Sure. Yeah.
But we're still shooting for it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And so I'm not going to assume anything because do you know anything about emotional intelligence?
Just what I learned from reels on Facebook. So no, I don't.
Oh,
I
you're
don't-
an expert then.
Yes.
Got it. We're good.
So you haven't read books on it? Done any,
No. I read books about math and stuff.
God, you're a weirdo,
Math?
dude.
I'm a total.
Total weirdo.
I'm
I love
super
it.
into engineering. I love engineering.
That's I can see that actually.
Geez. That's interesting. So the emotional intelligence, you exude
For
emotional
sure.
intelligence. Like
Oh,
it is
I don't know.
literally pumping out of your veins, and you have no idea.
I'm telling you, man.
Okay.
How you're talking about how your emotional brain processes all the information that you have, the biases, the experiences, the memories, everything.
Mm-hmm.
It has you operate. Well, that's emotional intelligence. By definition, that's what it is.
Okay.
So the better you have in control of those emotions and even the past experiences, the memories, the biases, fill in the blank, the better control you have over that allows you to perform at a higher level.
Okay.
And so that's what you're doing. And the funny thing is that's what you're actually teaching.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's you're helping your team realize that potential as well, which
Correct.
is super cool.
And the other part with the fire service, there is a lot of leadership development that happens off of osmosis.
Oh, I would agree with that. Yeah, 100%. Yes.
I'm just osmosis requires water, but go ahead. It still stands.
Shut up. Okay. So, well, whatever. Okay. So, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
So looking from that standpoint, the fire service it's had a lot of good people run through it, and those good people reproduce other good people, leaders,
Sure. Yeah.
or such. The challenge to that is you can also talk about bad leadership. Happens through osmosis. So
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of water.
it's-
Fine.
Yeah.
Put some water on it.
See, water.
Yeah.
But the challenge to the fire service now is how do we reproduce what's actually working and decrease what's not working?
Right.
And that's why I even mentioned the term of emotional intelligence. My last question to you, or actually none of that was a question. This is actually a question now.
My first question.
Yeah,
My first question and my last one. Why do you do this? Like, why do you do what you do and how you do it? What drives you?
Which like, why do I go to work in the morning?
No.
I go to work in the morning to fight fires and do cool stuff.
Amen to that.
Okay. Why do you care of having your guys succeed even better than you?
I think it just comes out of my own personal desire to do great and to be the best that I can be. And I grew up in the fire service. Like I came into the fire service as just some suburban teenager that liked spraying Miracle Grow on the flowers as a young kid. With some exposure to stuff, but I've learned probably most of like my life lessons in the fire service. I trade skills and interpersonal communication and all the different aspects I learned, and that's one thing I learned in the fire service was to really push yourself to be the best that you can be, like, and just destroy the boundaries and keep going. And it's turned into this like really cool journey of like you think this is the ceiling of knowledge, and you hit it and you're like, oh my gosh, because it just explodes. Yeah. There's so much more to learn, and I have this desire to learn more and more and more. And it's so fascinating and cool to me that I just can't help but share it. I want to share it with the people that care about it. And I say that because I talk about, the sine, cosine, tangent, and angular forces and vectors, and my wife's like, you're such a nerd.
Does your wife know my wife?
But no, like there's just such an internal, like, just fascination with everything about the fire service and technical rescue and fighting fire. And I'm so fascinated by it. And like I said, I'm just excited to share it with these guys. And it's just a full circle. You start with teaching them, and they learn it, and then they get good at it, and then you see them do it, or they do it. We put it into action, and then the cycle starts over. But now they're teaching somebody, and new guys in. And I've watched the crew I have now. The senior guy that's about to get promoted, he was in the 2013 rookie class for us. That was my first year teaching. It was the first time I ever taught. So everybody after that's been on my company is somebody that I've seen from the very beginning.
Interesting.
And there's such an investment there to see, this person come in from the outside that has no idea what the fire service is.
For sure.
And now they're diving into water and making grabs, or they're hanging off rope, or they're pulling people out of fires. Like it's so cool to see that. And to watch them grow as a person, kind of like I did, and to see them achieve all those things, and watch their confidence grow, and watch them like really get into it and stuff. That's what I get out of it, and that's what drives me to do it. Other than I just like blabbing about the stuff that I think is cool too, because I make mistakes in educating them, and I melt their minds sometimes with numbers and stuff, on accident. Meaning well, but to watch them put the pieces together and do it at a rate faster than I was able to, it is really, it's enjoyable to me, and it's really what drives me, and what pushes me with all of it, because we get beat up at work. We run our butts off. The whole department does. But
you're running on like 2 hours of sleep right now.
Yeah, that's enough.
That's enough. That's good.
So no, it's so rewarding to watch them grow, and to get them to grow, and to teach them everything, because I know I'll be gone. We're all a flash in the pan in the fire service, but the knowledge continues. And that's the important. All the UL NIST stuff is great, and there's tons of great stuff going on that we can draw in, and push into these guys' brains that are going to make them better and safer and faster and more efficient at this job. And I love the job. I want us to be good. I mean that in a nutshell, I want us to be good. Is where it all comes from.
That's awesome. You've never read a leadership book?
I've read a couple.
You could write one.
I read a good one. It was about it was called The Men, the Mission, and Me. And it was a Green Beret.
Oh, cool.
It was just like some stuff he learned through
For sure.
through his time there, and some good lessons he learns. But the overarching theme is the guys first.
Yep.
Get your mission done, then worry about yourself.
Yep.
And that is always important. And I my wife will roll her eyes, but I try to incorporate that in my personal life too. God, family, work, me. But she would argue sometimes work comes in place of that. I'm very busy, but I'm just having so much fun learning stuff, and then reteaching it.
Well, and I think you and I had this conversation the other day, but we were talking about some of the impacts of the fire service and some of the downfalls, and why there's a lot of firefighters that want out of the fire service, which is crazy. But to what you're speaking, burnout, and the other reason is meaning, the lack of meaning.
Yeah. So I mean, it all. If you run 15 calls a day and it's something that's minor stuff over, you lose that meaning. You lose, like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
Right.
We were never getting into this to get rich, and we still aren't. We're struggling to keep up with inflation.
Yeah. For sure.
But the core is important. And I think the core is maybe the single most important aspect of it. And what I'm talking about is the family at the firehouse. Who are you working with? And I have some very wild personalities in my firehouse, and sometimes I got to pull the reins a little bit because it gets a little too crazy. But there's just this atmosphere. If you have the right atmosphere, you don't need a brand new fire apparatus. You don't need a brand new firehouse. You need each other. And I heard this a while back, and man, it stuck with me. Is if you have a team of people that are more concerned about each other's needs than their own, you've got it made. And that I truly believe, and I've seen it in action, and it brings a tear to my eye. I've seen these guys give up something of theirs for their buddy on their crew.
Yep.
We call them EDOs or Kelly days.
Yep.
Essentially, I think Kelly days is probably the more common term. A more senior guy gave up his Kelly day for the whole year, his EDO for the whole year, to a less senior guy that had a baby.
That's awesome. Because
it worked better for his family, and he didn't think twice about it or hesitate.
Yep.
He's like, "You got it. I'll take whatever day." And now I was able to repay him. The kind of behind the scenes talk to my chief, like, "Hey, this dude really stepped up. Can we give him the day he wanted?" And we made it work out. But still, it doesn't matter. I could go on 500 calls in a shift. If I'm riding around with that in my truck, it don't matter.
It's all good.
And if they're riding around with that in their truck, it don't matter either.
He's pointing at you.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Because what you do, they did, you one-upped.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go to your chief.
Right.
You didn't have to ask for anything. But what you're portraying to them, they're replicating.
Sure.
For sure.
And that's, I mean, people want to talk about revolutionizing a department, an agency, a culture. It starts there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you said atmosphere. I said culture.
Correct.
Sure. Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning is the leadership.
Yes.
Where's the leadership?
Right.
Where are their values? Who do they care about? Mm-hmm. Again, like I have a blast going to work. We're fire a day, and every single discipline of technical rescue falls on my shoulders. I'm good. I'm happy.
Yep.
I don't, the guys make it though. Like,
For sure.
I could have all that and have a bunch of people that hate life and don't like to work with me and don't like to work with each other and are selfish. It would be miserable.
Yep.
It just wouldn't matter.
Yep.
But yeah, the leadership drives a lot of that, I think, from the top down. The chief of the department, the assistant chiefs, the district chiefs, the captains, lieutenants on down, and then even the senior guy.
Oh yeah.
I put a lot of weight on that in my company. Is don't come talk to me until you've let the senior guy fix it.
Yep.
Because they will fix a lot. Mm-hmm. Then when they can't, then they're like, hey, well, no problem. Yep. And that's the other thing is, I think what helps is not letting a problem be a problem. Now, if it's
elaborate.
I know what you're saying.
Hey, Cap,
I don't care.
Yeah, for sure.
They come into me and we got a hydraulic leak on our truck. Oh, okay, let's go get it taken care of.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Not a big deal. Don't let bad news be a bad thing. Yep. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yep.
I just want you to explain.
Yeah,
sure.
I was pretty sure I knew what you were saying, but
can't wait for all 14 of our listeners to listen to this shit.
Yeah.
Hey, we got 15.
My mom texted
me.
My mom.
15.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
No, like so. It just goes back to being accountable for them. Like if they come to me like, hey, I'm probably going to get a complaint. Mm. Okay, explain yourself. Like, I don't. It's not like I'm like you don't.
Yeah.
What'd you do? And then they'll tell me, and I'll be like, dude, I got you. Like, and that's the other thing, sticking up for your people. Like, I've gotten in trouble for my people before. I've got yelled at.
Sure.
But that happened for me. That chief that is now, or was my captain, that's now a chief. Man, he took some blows because of me.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Me personally, and he never once came back and was like, "Hey, I got in trouble because of you."
Yep.
Never once. And I know I caused it, and I apologize. I apologized, and he's like, "Whatever. It's my job."
Yep.
My job is to take care of you guys, and that's what I try to. I've flipped it around on these guys, but that's another big thing. Don't let bad news be bad. And there's been stuff where I'm like, well, this isn't good. Like we'll figure it out, but I think just that reassurance that you messed up, you fucked up, we're gonna fix it.
Yep.
Or that is fucked up, we're gonna fix it. you know.
Yep.
Right. And sometimes the outcome's good, and sometimes it's not. But yeah, I think that's always been a big one too. Is I've had officers where I bring something to them, and then it's like, oh,
it's the world ends.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god. Yep.
So, and I
then everybody gets stressed out.
Yeah, and I get stressed. Do not think for a second that I'm cool cucumber just sipping my coffee all day, because I do two very important jobs. One's running a company, and the other's running the tech rescue program for the city. So there's times where I'm loaded down, and I'm bad at asking for help. Yeah. I have a couple of close friends that help me teach and help me get stuff in order, and will do stuff for me. But I try not to make my problems anyone else's problems. So there's plenty of times where I'm stressed.
Are you aware of that? Like when you hit those moments?
Oh yeah. And I'll call myself out on it in front of them and whatever. But I make it if I'm stressed, bad mood, whatever, and I try to make it known, like, you guys didn't. This isn't because of something you guys did. Right. Or they'll ask me, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then I'll go on a small rant. The grumpy old guy. Oh, well, so and so did this, and now I have to do that, or whatever. Don't just not letting them think like, oh, we messed up, and then they're in their little fireman huddle, and oh, what'd you do to Cap? I don't know. What'd you do? Yeah. Maybe it's because you pulled your pants down yesterday. I don't know.
But they ask, right?
They do. They do. Yeah.
You've fostered that culture where
they'll ask. Yeah.
They'll come out and they'll ask you, like, "Hey, you good?"
And then they'll laugh at me usually.
Yeah, for sure, which probably helps.
It's because of my rants. I'll rant and they'll start laughing.
Well, start talking about sine, cosine, tangents, and shit.
Yeah, I should say I go off on a tangent.
You should. I love it.
Yeah. No, I think the family atmosphere is the most important part of that. That's where you got to start with everything. And once you have it established, every person that comes in the door after that,
Yep.
they're just there. And
They get sucked in.
accountability, discipline, and respect are the three things I think that are most important to keep everybody where they need to be and keep things running the way that they need to do. Because there's lots of times I'm not there. You know.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm to a point in my career where I have to use. I think I'm like up to 10 shifts. I have to take 10 shifts off a year, or I lose that time. Plus my EDO. Like
Yep.
I'm not around all the time. I try to be there for them. I feel like I have a duty to them, but you know, I want the right things happening when I'm not there. And I'm like 99% sure, like when I walk away, everything's squared away, and you know, there's stuff that whatever will slip through the cracks, but not the important stuff.
Yeah. It's a high functioning team.
Absolutely,
That's what it is.
It's not perfect,
Yeah.
but it strives for it.
That's
right?
right.
And that's
There's not very many industries or jobs or whatever you want to call it that realistically strive for perfection, right? Firefighting's one of them. The airline industry is one of them, right?
thank God,
Right?
Because I'm getting on a flight soon.
Like,
You on a Boeing?
uh-oh. But like, you know, like if the airline industry has like a 0.0003% failure rate, like that's news
Sure,
headlines,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
And it's just, so there's not very many places where perfection is the goal. And, you know, we already sort of talked about it, but going about it the way that you go about it, it's really cool.
Well, even, I mean, seeing the perfection side of it, for you guys, you're talking about perfection in all small aspects, right? So the lack of perfection in everything allows you not to have an imperfection like a plane going down, right?
Sure.
Yep.
So we miss something
on
that,
the big end, you mean?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
that? Yeah.
You end up
yeah,
with
yeah.
small failures,
Yeah.
not
Correct.
Not
You don't
massive
want a
ones.
disaster,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So we're going to have the high expectation in everything,
Yeah.
so that we know we won't achieve it, but at least it's in the chain being on backwards.
Sure.
Yep.
It's not. We don't have a chainsaw on the rig. Like what that could have been bad. Like you know, we left
the-
one of the firefighters back at the station. That could have been bad,
Sure.
right?
Absolutely.
Or the entire apartment complex burned down.
Correct.
And I feel like perfection has such a negative connotation, and I like that you said that
does,
that's the
yeah.
goal. You know, I'm not out in the training grounds with those guys. Like, no, you did that, redo it. You know, it's small steps towards that. Every time there's small steps toward that. As long as there's learning going on, we're making progress, right? We're moving in the right direction. As long as and I've told one of my best friends on the job this for a while, is that if you're not making progress in your career, you're going backwards.
Yep.
You may think you're stationary, but you ain't.
If you're not growing, you're dying.
Correct.
That's it.
And we've pretty much held on to that with each other. Like, and we both are driving forward and just trying to push that knowledge and trying to push that you know, that the capabilities forward and the abilities forward.
Let's switch gears for a minute.
Yes.
Unless you got something else. You said one question, though, so I'm going to move on.
Yeah. You said it was your last question,
Yeah, it was
too.
the last
you did.
question. So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All right.
You run. I might have another one, but we'll see.
No,
All right,
thank you for thanking me.
Yeah. So with you got a lot of stuff going on. USAR, Tech Rescue. So let's jump into that a little bit. I mean, the title of the podcast is Untold Stories, right? So
Sure.
It is.
It is. Yeah. I think
thought
we
we
finalized
I've told
it.
a lot of
I thought-
stories.
Yeah. So let's like Tech Rescue fucking fascinates me because it's so, like you said, there's like gray areas of descriptions and this and that. And is that your wife? You gonna answer it?
Sorry.
Is
Yes.
she mad? Yep. See, I knew it.
Take a picture of the podcast.
You want me to? Can I?
Center
Will you
yes.
edit,
Yeah,
will
yeah.
you edit that out?
Yeah, for sure. We'll get in it. Yes. Yes.
So-
I love it.
There is, yes. So I'm with you. It fascinates me as well. There's a lot about it.
So what's some of the rescues, like the cool ones that you've gotten to kind of put all this nerd knowledge to work?
So
Nerd knowledge.
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple that I'm like super proud of.
Love it.
We just finished our 4th year. So 4 years ago, we implemented the first swift water tech capabilities into our department, meaning entry rescues. Like prior to this time, we didn't have that. There's a guy now he's a district chief. He's a task force leader with Ohio Task Force 1 now for Ohio.
Nice.
He spearheaded this, and he was able to convince the city to send me and 3 of my good buddies to Indiana for a week.
Nice.
And we learned a ton.
All Swiftwater?
All Swiftwater.
Nice.
And we were able to Daytonize it and create a Dayton program. And so we've been teaching it to our guys for 4 years now, 4 years in a row. And we 2 years ago had our it was uncanny. It was almost like it was made up. So day 5 of the class is like scenarios. It's like kind of their final check off their testing, and we don't help them anymore. It's fix this. Mm-hmm. And we had the feature actually fell apart, but we had a nice water feature out on the east side of the city. It was a kayak feature, but it created good current. Mm-hmm. It also created a terrible whirlpool that every year would pull people down and drown. It was awful. But we turned this into like a training site, and we developed a scenario where there's somebody in the current downstream holding on for dear life, about to let go. So we run that as one of our scenarios, and like we would set it up to where you had the triage. There's somebody safely perched on a rock. There's somebody face down in the water, and there's somebody hanging on. So they had to, real quick, like right now, figure it out, go, make the rescues. Well, it was probably a month after that. We had a lady in that same spot that we put our pretend victim. It was always an instructor that was the victim. But this lady's hanging on, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Damn.
We had it solved. We had from on scene to she's coming out of the water 5 minutes, the incident was over. And the big surprise was she didn't have any pants on when they got to her. But yeah,
because of the water, or she went in that
my
way?
picture
the
of
water
that
the
whole
water
scene
pool.
just changed.
So, but no, I mean these guys, there was no hesitation. They knew exactly what to do, and they went right to action. They nailed it. And brought this woman back out the other side in no time. And it was pushing through there. I don't remember how much rain we had, but our rivers are so temperamental.
For sure.
They'll go from nothing to swollen in no time with a couple days of rain. And they get treacherous. People don't stay away from them as much as they should. Yep. And this poor woman just happened to be enjoying some spirits that day, and thought she would bend over and got dizzy and fell in. That's all it took. And she was downstream, and she was holding on to a strainer, and these guys just whoop, they're down in, got her, and brought her out. It was a super proud moment watching our fire department operate. At this level, after I had gotten to be part of the implementation of the process. And so that was a really cool tech rescue. And it was relatively simple, quick go rescue, grab and pull her out. There was another one, not water related, but we had a confined space rescue. January, sorry, about a year and a half ago. They dispatched an illness. I forget the exact specifics. They sent a weird dispatch. It was just an engine and a medic. And we were out on the air. We heard it come in, and I think dispatch came back and asked the first responding engine if they wanted a hazmat incident, if they wanted it upgraded. So immediately I'm like, what's going on here? So we have computers in all of our rigs, and you can pull up the detailed notes of what, as dispatch is sending it out, they're constantly updating with notes. And it says, workers down in a pit, unconscious, think it's a hazardous material. In my mind, instantly goes to, this is a confined space rescue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And lots of unknowns still. So I took some liberties, and I went ahead and I got on the radio and I said, make this a confined space rescue. We'll be on the way.
We're rolling out.
Yeah. And my rescue is Rescue 2. The other rescue is Rescue 1, and they same thing from them. They end up jumping on, and what it turned out to be was they were pressure washing this pit. It's an old foundry, and we've had a couple of cool fires there. But this big pit underneath, and we're not sure quite what it was used for.
Interesting.
But it had a 4x4 hole, was the only way in, only way out, the only ventilation for the place. And they were turned into a truck stop. And they contracted these guys to go down in there and to pressure wash this for some odd reason.
Yep.
So they're down there with the pressure washer running in this space for who knows how long, and they both go down unconscious. Third guy goes to help them. He goes down. Fourth guy goes in to help them, and now he's gone down. So
4x4 hole.
And it's probably
Poor guy.
It's probably. Oh no! It was massive.
Underneath.
It was massive.
Yeah.
Underneath.
Just
There was
4x4
rooms to
to
this.
get in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Interesting.
No good way down. There's a rickety ladder down in there. So we're pretty confident we know what we're rolling up on. Like as the information's coming in, like this probably isn't a hazmat. This is probably a confined space issue.
Yep.
Atmospheric hazards. So first in engine officer does a great job. Grabs his 4-gas, puts an SCBA on, starts investigating. His monitor gets slapped with outer range CO, like within 10 feet of the hole.
Oh, Jesus.
So we start some ventilation efforts immediately, but we're safe. We're safe to get in a little bit and start setting up. And it was just like clockwork. Like the guys just, we were extremely blessed because we had some rescue guys working overtime on the first responding engine.
Oh, nice.
So we had some extra hands. One of the guys, the lieutenant, is now a captain, and one of the firefighters is now a lieutenant. But good, super solid dudes. So they were already helping us gear everything up.
Mm-hmm.
And from the time of dispatch to the fourth person out was an hour. So the way it unfolded, we sent 2 rescuers in. We had to create a high point to haul.
Yep.
And luckily we had a ladder, so it operating within the OSHA limitations. Like all you have to have is Fall Pro on those guys. So they were down in quick.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They were able to arouse one guy, and he like all stumbly come, and we like grab him and pull him up. So that was the easy one. Yeah. The I guess the number 4 guy, the last guy in, had already self-extricated. So now we're down to 2.
Gotcha.
So we're doing good.
Yeah.
The other two guys were bad off. They eyes wide open but completely unresponsive, just gorked out. And the 2 guys that went down in there, they get them drug over, they get them packaged, we haul them out real quick.
Yep.
And I just remember it being like an assembly line. The sked came out, they would drop it on the cot. We didn't DC anything. The cots got right up. We had reduced the hazards and everything. We're not operating in CO at this point, but we would unbuckle, slide the victim out. They were gone.
Nice.
The medic had them. They're running to the hospital. Relocate the sked, drop it down in.
Yep.
Next patient's in, boom, up and out. And then the two guys down in the hole were able to complete a primary, secondary of that entire space to clear it of anybody out. And then they were out in an hour's time, 60 minutes of from me telling them to make it, a confined space rescue to these guys. And I got again, it was my guys, the guys I've been training since day one. So it was really cool to watch. Yeah. And I'd be lying if I wasn't overwhelmed because
for sure.
The district chief
in the pit.
My guys?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had supplied air. We had everything going. We checked all the boxes. The lockout, tag out, all that stuff was going on. But the second district chief on scene became operations and allowed me to just be rescue.
Oh, nice.
So I didn't have to worry about coordinating with the hazmat or coordinating with the EMS officer or anything like that because it got built out. We had a ton of stuff there for this. The chief of the department, the now chief of the department was there. He was the operations chief at the time. He was there. But I was like, holy cow, this is taxing.
Yeah.
I was grabbing people like, you do this. And that chief, that guy that's my best friend now, he showed up and I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
He's like, here, you just do rescue. I got this. And I mean, everything went so well. And all four of those guys lived. They got airlifted to Ohio State. Okay. And they have a hyperbaric chamber there. And they were able to get those guys back to pressure washing pits, I guess. But after the fact, it took us 3 hours to ventilate the pit.
To get it back to normal levels?
To get it to below 5 parts per million CO.
Wow.
It took 3 hours. That's how much they were. And again, it goes back to the limited opening.
I was going to say, because it's just a 4x4, that was the only.
Yeah. But crazy cool run to be on with
weird.
those.
I wonder what they use that pit for. That's super interesting.
Who knows? I mean, as a foundry, it was probably from the early 1900s. That building is super old.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then I had one of my first real bad rescue runs was like assessment center level. We got called mutual aid. There was a car that rolled over, struck a gas main, trapped both occupants inside of it, and hit the building. The building was collapsing onto the car. So we both.
Let's draw this scenario up a little bit. That wouldn't happen.
So we ended
That's
up
like some TV show shit.
Yeah, both our rescues were there, and we couldn't get the gas to turn off. So that was the other aspect of it. It broke the meter.
Yeah.
They couldn't find the valve in the road.
Oh, interesting.
Shut it off. So we're free flowing gas
Jesus.
while extricating with two people trapped. They're not just like upside down and we need to open the door. They were legit pinned.
Yeah.
Like they were cutting seat backs and interior features of this car to get these people out of there. All the while we're inside shoring with my 5 gases just blowing up at me, pun intended. We were hitting 40, 50% LEL, but what do you do?
Yeah.
You risk a lot to save a lot. So it was a very,
Damn.
it was assessments. It was one of those game time decisions. Can we do this? Well, we have to.
Yeah.
Because I've got guys cutting under this car and this house is leaning onto the car.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool one too. We did.
Is that gas company somebody's calling gas company trying to?
Oh yeah,
turn
it took them a while to find
For
it
sure.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple medical helicopters landed. It was a rural suburb of ours. But yeah, just this wide gamut of problems that we had to overcome.
Rolled into one.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. Super fun. It's all fun. I've had weird, cars in all sorts of weird positions, people in weird places. Just really cool stuff. Those runs are the most fun runs. Next to structure fires. That's what brings us in.
That's fun.
I like to ask a question. I'm not even going to ask it because you nailed it. One of the questions I like to ask is, did that just happen? And just kind of curious if you've ever gone through that, and looks like
There's
you
a couple-
have.
There was a couple of those, yeah. Like,
Oh.
was there? What's like? Do you have one
Like,
that's
what about a funny one? Like, let's.
Funny, right?
Yeah, like a funny. Did that just happen? Maybe that.
No, everything I do revolves around people being hurt.
Oh, we've heard some funny ones. Like,
Yeah, we've had like goats coming out of a
Yeah.
barn on fire and shit.
yeah, on fire. That was cool.
I mean, if animals dying isn't off the table, we had
No, definitely not.
a
off the
defensive fire. It was a single story, like as fully involved as you can get. And there was a dog chained up out back, and one of the guys on my crew walked over and trying to help the dog out, cut the chain, and the
Yep.
dog ran straight into the house.
God.
Crossed the back threshold,
Oh,
looked
God.
back at him with wide eyes, like, "Oh, I just done fucked up," and then dropped dead.
That's so messed up.
Yeah. Hey, you brought up animals.
That's anything's. I told you, there's no rules, man. It's our podcast. We do whatever the hell we want.
I mean, it's not like a PETA thing because it happened.
Yeah.
It's like,
Listen, you were trying. He was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
He did. He
Yeah,
did.
he did.
Yes. If he had left it, the radiant heat was burning the dog
For
as it was
sure.
sitting there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like, I got to get this dog away from here.
Yeah.
And the dog said, no. He went right back. Yeah.
Well, yeah. That
Crazy.
Did that just happen?
Gosh, man, there's stuff that so many things have happened that I just have forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And somebody will bring something up, and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
I did that to my brother. I don't know if I've ever said that one, but I asked my brother, and I was like, hey, because he's a captain in Southern California, and I said, hey, you should be on the podcast. He goes, I don't have any stories. And I'm like, yeah. Let me remind you. He goes,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that was a funny one.
Yeah, yeah, see-
that was a good one.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's probably exactly what someone's doing right now. Like,
Yeah.
wait, what about this one time? And I'll
Yeah.
just be like, oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your brother told me like 4 stories in the first 30 minutes I knew him.
yeah, he's a storyteller.
Yeah.
And so when he tells me, yeah, I don't have any stories,
Yeah. Bullshit.
it's not true.
Definitely
at
have
all.
stories.
Yeah.
Your life is a walking story.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. I don't want to keep you any longer. I know your wife's texting you, so
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I
the
appreciate you
time.
guys. Thanks for having me on.
It was awesome.
It was, yeah. Honestly, I hope a lot of people listen to this. There was some cool stuff, cool insights you have on leadership. So
I was kind of hoping nobody listened to it.
well,
we might have gone to 16.
yeah, maybe
by the time.
maybe this is the one like we get some extra person. I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna send it to all the guys in your crew.
Right? Yeah.
So
See?
you get those guys.
There you go.
They'd be like, God, that guy's full of shit.
Yeah.
What about this
True.
one time you were mad at us?
Yeah. So you were all cool and collected, but you yell at us all the time.
Yeah.
So
That's
awesome.
Cool.
Well,
No,
thank
you guys.
Appreciate
absolutely.
it.
Appreciate you.
Yep. Appreciate you guys.
Till next time.
Do we sign out?
I don't know.
We hit the.
Oh yeah, we do. Ready?
Oh yeah.
There it is.
There it is.
You got it.
There it is.
Kyle,
Come on.
Kyle
Come
can't
on,
hear this,
Kyle.
but he knows exactly
Come on,
what button
Kyle.
I pushed.